How's it going in the Pickering? It's a small town. I've never been there before.
Pickering is actually fairly big, but I live in a
Okay.
small town. I still live in a small little area of Pickering.
Damn, it's an
There
ideal
we
place for artists.
go. Yeah, it is a good place for artists. Yeah. Damn, this iPad. I gotta make sure this iPad can stay up. One
You
second.
know what? We got the same chair. It's artist
Oh
chair.
yeah, nice. Okay,
Here we go.
gotta get rid of this light. Okay.
Yeah, you can talk about the backlighting here.
Yeah, seriously. If this stupid thing. Okay.
You know what? The guy, my partner, he's Zing, and we translate almost like your best of your videos there in China, and the people love it. So
Oh
this is
yeah.
why you push me. Yeah, you have to reach Marco. Like, say, is there any further tips for us? I say, sure. I try my best because we are in the Canada same time.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thanks for translating. So how did you do it? You translated the YouTube videos and
Yeah, it's basically I can download from YouTube, and I can put subtitles on so that students there can easily understand what you're saying. They
oh,
can
that's awesome.
roughly understand what you're saying, but not checking the translation. But their English language is kind of so-so. It's not like a very pro, so it's really hard for them to understand everything.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
I
this is
understand.
why
Yeah.
I do this, and this is working really great.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, thanks for putting in the effort and helping my content reach your students. That's great.
No problem. Yeah, it's like people in China kind of very energetic of learning, especially on art.
Yeah.
Not pretty sure, you know, like each time we have the art test in China before we go to the university.
Yeah.
So like millions people like join the art school every year. So yeah, they are big number there.
That's great. So the school is called, what is it? CG.
Oh, the CGD is short for Creative Gear Design. So
Uh,
a year ago, so right now we're kind of teaching some production design, concept art, environmental design, storyboard, and animation stuff.
nice, nice. Yeah. Well, one day, like whenever I finish at CGMA, we can talk about teaching over there. If you're still interested, that'd be cool.
Oh yeah, damn, you're on, you always on the top priority, man.
Yeah, well, thanks. Yeah, I just CGMA right now, like they own, like I have an 8-week class with like hours of video that they own, so
Right,
like I can't really go anywhere right now, but
right.
yeah,
But
but who
you
knows
but you
that can
do
change.
like all the live streaming with them, right? You don't have to record something.
I do have pre-recorded videos
Oh,
that
okay.
yeah, and then I also do a weekly live stream with them. It's all part of the same class.
Nice, nice. Okay, yeah, similar, same format. Cause every time you're
Hmm.
teaching, like for painting, so we can
Hmm.
show like different demos for each class. But for like kind of software tool stuff, every time we teach is basically the same, like animation, 3D Max stuff, and ZBrush. So we do the pre-recording. It's a lot helpful for students to understand.
Okay, cool.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So let's start. I think yeah, cause our
Yeah,
time is kind of limited. So we
sure.
do.
A quick question, Leo. Do you want me to start painting like right away? Like do a little sketch right away?
You can go your website, like, so you can talk about introduce yourself a little bit, so we can
Yeah.
start. Yeah, we do
But
half
you
half.
Oh, okay. So you don't want me to start a little sketch until half?
Yeah,
Okay. So I'll just talk to you like this first.
right.
Okay, sure. Let's do it.
Yeah. So this is our main guest for today, Marco Bucci. So I hope you guys like it. You must saw his videos so many times on Creative Gear website, and it's amazing teacher. So this is why I got like big honor to invite him today for our talk today. So yeah, welcome,
Hello,
Marco.
everybody. Hey, Leo. Thanks for having me. How you guys doing?
Yeah, it's great. Like, yeah, we are in the same town, right? So in Toronto.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just outside of Toronto. I lived in Toronto for 20 years, and
Oh shit.
you work right next to where I used to live, but I don't live there anymore. I'm just about an hour away now.
Right. Ubisoft. Nice. Yeah, I hope one
Yeah,
day we
yeah,
can work together for
yeah.
some
Maybe.
project.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of great. Okay. So yeah, so I heard I saw you lots of videos on the YouTube, and you become a YouTuber since when 10 years ago.
Yeah. My channel is about 10 years old now. Yeah.
10 years. Okay.
Well, yeah, but I didn't really, I mean, my first video was 2009, I think, so 10
Okay.
years, but I didn't really take it seriously until 2016.
2016. Okay.
So
So
3 years, 3 years.
since after 2016, you've like full time doing the YouTube and online teaching stuff.
Yeah, pretty full time. I still do work as a freelancer. Like I do illustration and some concept art and some character design. I still do that stuff freelance, but
Right.
most of my time these days is taken up with my teaching and my YouTube stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Would you show your website to us? Cause I
Yeah,
checked
sure.
you're on ArtStation and your own website probably.
Yeah, I'm on ArtStation, and let's see. Let me just bring in a browser here. You can see this browser, right?
Yep.
Okay, so if you just go to marcobucci.com, this is my personal website, and you can see both like personal work here, which is just my own paintings, and then I have my professional section here, which is yeah, like I've got children's books, I've got everything from like realistic stuff like this to cartoony stuff like
Beautiful
you know
colors.
yeah. Oh, thanks. Like cartoony stuff. Here's some character design.
Right.
A lot of stuff you might have seen, like Frozen. I got to work on that, and yeah, just a bunch of stuff. So that's my personal website, and then on my ArtStation is basically the same. It might have a few more sketches on it and a few
Right.
more just informal things.
Yeah.
But yeah, probably
I saw
both.
you. I saw you work on a lot on the book cover stuff and the book illustration for children. So is that like due to your personal style of painting? Cause kind of like a cartoony Disney that kind of style feels like your major job to do.
Yeah, I do like this is a book cover here for things you can see. If you click on it, you can actually see some of the rough sketches that went into it.
Nice.
I'm pretty influenced by Disney and Pixar, all kinds of stuff. I mean, I'm even influenced by
Right.
like comic books and things like that. I don't know if you can see. Well, no, you can't see my studio in the background. There's a big light back there, but I got tons of like Ninja Turtles and like Batman. You can't really
Nice.
see it, but you can kind of see a little Batman there.
Right. I saw the stuff there. Okay.
Yeah, I'm influenced by all like all the same stuff that in North America that we grow up with,
Right.
and all the cartoons and stuff like that. So I originally wanted to be an animator, but I never really had any drawing skills. So I started learning life drawing, and then I got into painting that way, and then I pursued painting more than animation, and here I am today as an illustrator. I think I'm more of an illustrator than concept artist, even though I do the odd concept art as well.
Right. Yeah, I saw your videos. Like, there are great animations. I wonder, like, if you hire anybody else to do the animation for you. Or you do it
No,
yourself?
that's me. That's me.
Damn. Okay.
I do it
yeah.
in Photoshop. I'll show you. Here, you want me to open up one of the files?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, you can keep talking while I search for this file.
So all the animation you did in Photoshop, it's not like Flash to
I'm
move stuff.
No, I don't know what I'm doing, so I just do it in Photoshop because I don't know any other way. Let me just I'm just looking at this folder. So 9.
I saw people.
Oh.
I try like storyboarding stuff in Photoshop before, cause they have the timeline thing. So
Yeah.
I never try animation in here. I saw Photoshop is kind of improve its 3D function something here. So I tried a bunch of 3D, but the RAM thing is like very needed for the computer, so it's kind of slow down everything.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically you see my layers here. Each layer. Here, let me just turn this one off. Each layer is a drawing of this guy. So like
Ah.
I just animate it in Photoshop layer by layer. It's the worst way. Like I can't even preview it. I can't even preview it until I export it. So then I export all these
Okay.
frames into I export into After Effects, and then I assemble everything in After Effects. It's a terrible, terrible way to do it.
Damn,
But
damn.
I don't know. I don't have any other software, so I
So
just do it like that.
You drew like each frame like this.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like all the animation like pre-happen in your mind first, and then you
Yeah.
illustrate everything and finalize in After Effects. Damn.
That's right. And sometimes I'll do in between frames, like I'll do like a motion blurred
Right,
frame
motion
for in
blurred
between.
thing.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but it's all. I just have the
Oh.
poses in my head. Yeah, yeah. It's
That
not a good way to do it. Not a good way
That
to
is
do
a
it.
lot of work. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Now I know that it's a kind of more traditional way to animation the thing. It's crazy.
Yeah. I also use Blender for like the 3D part.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yep.
right now Blender turns into my major tool for concepting stuff and
Do
modeling.
you use it at Ubisoft?
Yeah, like part of my
Nice.
job is kind of environment design, so I can quickly block out the thing. But at this is like pre-production, so I can when they don't really know what they want to do in the game, so I basically can create the interesting shapes myself.
Yeah,
If I go
yeah.
a little bit more futuristic, so it's a little bit hard for me to freehand painting. But after then, till the real production of the project, so they have everything basically the block out in the engine, so they
Hmm.
can take the screenshot simply for me, so I don't have to model it myself, right?
That's cool. Yeah, no, Blender, I love Blender.
Yeah.
But you guys must use like different software in your actual like production, right?
Um, yeah, I think it depends. Cause my coworker, I'm started using Blender, and then it feels like I spread it out in the studio, and other concept artists, getting to know the software, and I kind of show some fun part of this software to them, and
Yeah.
then yeah, they just starting learning, and I think it's great, especially the I'm using 2.8U.
Yeah, 2.8. I just changed. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, they have the real time render,
Yeah, the
EV.
EV render. Yeah.
That is amazing to me. I think it's the most easy way to find best lighting in it.
That I previs stuff with EV as well in my
Right,
concept art. Yep.
right, nice. Yeah, so I think we have a week ago, no, a week till they officially release the 2.8. I think the official one.
Yeah, something like that. It's coming up very soon. Yeah.
Right, nice. Yeah, just can't fall before it.
And it's
It's
free.
yeah.
It's free. Can you believe
Oh
it?
yeah, oh yeah. I know some people in the small studio, so they use Blender for everything. So yeah, they
Yeah.
can basically do every step you need in the production. So I think it's really great.
Yeah,
And
me too.
grease pencil thing, you don't have to draw in Photoshop again. So you can.
Yeah, the grease pencil. Yep. Yep.
Okay, okay. So uh, yeah, notice you're basically like illustrator. So this is why you're identify yourself like this position more than concept artist.
Yeah, I like the act of like finishing a painting to its, final potential, whereas concept art it tends to be I love painting rough, but concept art you tend to like you're cranking out concepts, right?
Right.
For a director or something. And that's fun. Like I love the adrenaline rush of like waking up in the morning and having no idea what you're going to create and then that evening you have, a concept painting for someone or maybe two concept paintings depending on the job.
Right.
But and I like that. But
Okay.
I work as a freelancer. I tend to be hired more for illustration,
Mm-hmm.
and I also have an agency who represents me that gets me work like in children's books and like
Right.
novels, like covers and things like that.
Publications. Right. Okay.
Exactly, yeah. But
Okay.
honestly, like I said earlier, the YouTube stuff has been more and more my focus
Right.
as an educator. I've been really impressed by how many like the momentum of people who've come to discover me on YouTube, and then they
Right.
watch those videos, and then they want to see more. So I have like my own private like on skill. I'm on Skillshare, and I'm on like on my online store. You can buy my lessons there. So I've
Right.
been working for myself, I guess, more and more these days.
Yeah, I heard from your the video like recently you talk about like you hunger for Monday. It's not like every people are free. Like damn, Monday's coming. I have to work, and it
Yeah.
feels like you really love the work and have the patience and the passion in working. And I heard like what do you say? It's like a Marco Bucci Corporation on the weekdays.
Yeah, yeah, Marco Bucci Incorporated. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. No, Monday doesn't scare me. I like Mondays. I have my little studio space here, which I don't know if you can see. It's like this big room with tons of art supplies and music and stuff like that. And I
Nice.
live here. I live here all day on the
Okay.
weekdays. And this is my house. Like this is a big room in my house.
Okay.
So yeah, I work here during the day, and yeah, during the week I kind of treat my time as if I were a company because I am, right. That's what I do for a living.
Right. Yeah, I think it's kind of dream workplace for everybody.
Yeah,
Cause
yeah,
sometimes like in-house working is kind of tough for certain type of artists, so they don't
yeah.
really like being managed every day and do what sometimes you don't really like to do. So you have to like say because it's your job. But if you
Mhm.
being a freelancer, so it's more feels like choice left for you, so you can, you know.
Exactly. I've been able to pick and choose my work more and more, as I gain experience and people hear about you, more and more jobs come in and you can say yes to this one, no to this one, and it's been pretty good. Yeah, it's been pretty good. But like as the teaching stuff has been unexpected. I did not think that I would be getting into that as heavily as I have been. Right. So it's been a cool little twist in my life for the last 3 years.
Can you show some example of your work? Like say which type of work like is your favorite, and you can explain some your production work to us, like your steps and what you're thinking about this, or what type of job you got before you sketching.
Yeah, sure. Let's see. Let me go to my work folder here.
Okay.
Last year I got to illustrate the Nutcracker book. So the Disney movie, The Nutcracker, came out last Christmas, and Disney hired me to do the book, like the movie. And whenever Disney makes a movie, they also release a book.
Right.
So I've done a few Disney books, but I did the Nutcracker book last year, and it was really cool. They sent me like a ton of reference material, like for instance, like.
So they gave you like really clear direction before they let you, freely do whatever you like.
Yeah, so they sent me a PDF which had like all of the descriptions of each picture. It also had the text of the story of the book, and then I just got to illustrate. They would say like an army marching to the castle or something. So like I this is an in progress one. So in progress one here. Let me just bring this onto my screen. This is a work in progress. This is how I started. It's very painterly and like. Loose. This is just an hour into the process. Then I have another in progress shot here. Let me just see if I can paste it in. Oh, it's really short. It's really small. Okay, so here's another look, and like I get to, I got to build these illustrations like in the way that I love to paint. Like these are so abstract. The finished one, I have the finished one here too. Let me just go into.
I went through several of your works, and it feels like you really like bashing, crazy brushstroke first, and then you make your canvas look like a color palette, and then you go into to define the shapes, and it feels like everything turns easier for you, so that you don't have to, look at the color picker every time, because everything you need is on the canvas already.
Yeah. I really like to do that. I like to start with like. I don't always start this messy. Like this is pretty messy, but sometimes I do. But I like the idea that shapes can be suggested to you through the process. And like the cool thing about this is if you paint like this, it takes some experience to learn to do this. Like I couldn't do this right away. Mm-hmm. But I really like the idea that the more you give to the painting, the more it gives you. And like when I look at this, I can see where his pants might go, and I can see where there's room for other people in here, and you can just these abstract strokes can give you so much feedback as you work, and I really like that. So I use a lot of like smudge tool, like up here I've got a ton of these brushes. And
I saw your technique in your videos, like
so like I'll smudge stuff around like this, and I'll make these abstract canvases like that, and all kinds of random brush strokes, and then I will just work into it. I do start like that a lot. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is kind of very advanced technique to beginners, like how to transfer shape from we call abstract shape into details, like to refine this. So it's kind of it's a tough part, but you did a really, really good job on this. I think it's going to keep the kind of old painting style. It's awesome.
Thanks.
Because right now people going to say, production, when they mention production, in their mind is like everything, very 3D-ish, right? It's like they lost of the loose painting style on it, loose kind of artistic. Like in China, people say there's no soul if you're using 3D. So that kind of feeling, but you do keep that kind of, origin of the real art.
Yeah, if I do use 3D, which I didn't here, none of these use 3D, but if I did use 3D, I paint over everything. Like I don't use any pixels from the render. I just use it as reference. Okay. I'll just block out, like if I'm blocking out a city, maybe 3D is very good for that, right?
Right.
But it's very bad if you want your work to have soul, like you guys say. You really want to make the brush work come out. So I'll just use the 3D reference just for that as reference. But yeah, it's a big part of my training is like the way I understand the world through paint It's like you kind of have to know, you kind of, through many years of painting, you start learning, like if I'm painting like this girl's expression, it's very painterly, it's not very detailed, but you have to be very selective with what needs to be there, like with what shapes need to be there. Like how do you show the smile in an eyeball without rendering everything? Because you could render everything and that's fine, but I didn't want to do that. So you have to be, so painting loose is difficult because you have to know what does need to be there and what you can throw away. And it's a lot of back and forth, to be honest, a lot of back and forth when I paint this way. And just even like folds in the clothing, like what strokes need to be there, like the direction of the brush stroke can be important to show the direction of the fold in the dress and things like that. Yeah, then there are other areas, honestly, other areas like this is just meaningless. Like this is nothing. This is nothing. But if you paint other things correctly, or and they evoke the information of the three-dimensionality and stuff, you can get away with abstraction in the background.
Right. Yeah, I think it's really, you kind of, it's not very picky on, finalizing everything.
Yeah,
Like I remember my teacher mentioned, so when you finalize a painting, you don't really 100% finalize it. You really want to leave like 20% or 30% to the audience, so that they can, use their imagination to think about, leave some room to the painting. So they give some room to the audience instead of, you push everything into 100%. Otherwise, it looks like kind of stiff and boring.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's exactly how I think about it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's really emotional. Yeah, you're really good at like a emotional painting. Keep everything loose. I really like that before.
Oh, thanks, Leo. Yeah, I just try. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, because I remember when I do my book thing, illustration.
Yeah.
So I never push everything into very specific until I got to work, like say watchdog brand. So everything have to be, I want to see what it is. I want to see the structure of everything. Everything have to be clear for the level artist to understand and for the art director to, promote this to the whole team, to influence the whole team. So I can't get the chance like to work like you. So I really appreciate your painting.
Sometimes like studios, if you're working for a studio, they need different levels of resolution, different levels of detail on your stuff.
Right.
It's always nice when a studio lets you stay a bit loose and do your thing. But yeah, like a loose painting can still be finished. Like you can still have like I think there's a difference between like a sketch and a finished sketch. Like I think there's a difference there. Okay. What I try and do, if I were to call it something, I try and do finished sketches is what I would love to be able to accomplish with my work. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I think it's your description on this is kind of unclear, but I understand what you mean. So you basically show people, sketch level, but they can already basically got everything you want to show in the sketch, like sketch. But yeah. On the other hand,
well,
you save our time on this.
Yeah. Well, it's like when I did this one here. So if I look at, there's this ballerina here, right? When I was doing this one, there's certain things that go beyond a sketch. Like you might look at it and say, oh, it's very sketchy, and it is. But there are certain things here that like a quick sketch wouldn't capture. For instance, like the rhythm, like see this, like the gesture of her hand as it goes like this. This is something that you refine. Like this doesn't come out right away.
Right.
The rhythm, like how the tricep muscle goes like this and the forearm muscle goes like that. That's a rhythmical thing that you have to work on. You don't have to render it, but to get that rhythm in place takes something. It takes a sketch and it's just slightly beyond a sketch. And there are things in the painting rhythmically that really matter, like the fabric moving in this direction, right, that mirrors the arm, and there's these rhythms in place that are like it's not rendering, but it is still detail. It's just a different kind of detail.
Right. Yeah, I saw you mention a lot about the shapes, and then you really pay attention on the shapes and the tone, and then the color on top, and color is fancy for sure. And for the detail wise, you didn't mention too much in your video. So to what certain detail you feel like you can call it finished, and you feel like it's ready to show your client?
How much detail do I need?
Yeah, it's like, so when you call it finished.
Yeah. The form, like the form has to be clear, and like the dimension of something has to be clear,
Right.
and the light has to be clear. It's hard to, how do I explain it? Let's see here. Well, I don't know. I can bring up a painting. Let's look at like this one.
Okay.
So like here's one of my paintings. Like I would consider
birds.
this, yeah, I would consider this like finished. And like when I say the form needs to be clear, it's like it's when I'm painting these owls and I'm looking at like their heads here. If I were to draw a little cross contour, like their head goes up and then down and then up like that. Like that's the form of the head. Do you know what I mean? Like it goes like this. So like that form needs to be clear. Like like the belly needs to be out and down. Like there's a sculptural quality to it that needs to be very clear. And I check my work in grayscale, right? Image mode, grayscale. I check my work in grayscale to make sure the values are looking good. But when it comes to like the brushwork, I don't really care. Like I want to see the brush strokes. But I also want to see the form. So it's taken me a long time, and I'm still working on it. It takes me a long time to arrive at a finished painting like this, because it's very easy to slip into render mode, and I don't want to do that. Like if you look at this owl, this guy here, there's one brush stroke. You see that one brush stroke that you can almost. I took a round brush, I had a multiply mode, and I just went like, boom, and I had this brush stroke that just went like that, and I probably tried it like 10 times, to get it right, and that's basically what I do when I paint. I have a very specific idea as to what I like to look at, and then I try and reach that, and then also the form has to be clear. So that's what my criteria is.
Yeah, I feels like it's kind of harder, like to simplify the shapes, but you still keep the brushstroke. But you still can show the very clear structure and forms. Yeah, cause some people, they feel like they want to render the structure, they have to, push to a certain like a rendering level so that they can understand it. But in the early stage, you can still, show the form very clear, and then, but your brushstroke are still there, right?
Sure.
I think that it's,
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's another reason I start messy. Like this painting here, this is the beginning of it, and then I have the end. Oh, this is the one that people have probably seen a lot. This is the finish, and it started here. It starts very, very rough and loose, and I paint right on top of that. And then eventually, the nice thing about strokes like this, just like you saw with the Nutcracker one, is those strokes, like they'll stay there. Like that energy will stay there, even when you paint over it. And it's nice. You'll find that you don't have to render everything, and it gives you a different kind of look. I like rendering stuff too. Like there are some projects I do where I have to render everything. That's fine. It just personally, I prefer the look of this.
So are you starting every painting by just coloring instead of starting from black white?
Yeah, I start directly in color, yeah.
Yeah, I think that is a lot harder, because every time I check my paintings, like even though I color everything, I feel like something wrong with it. I have to remove the color and say, oh, okay, so there's something wrong with the volume, but then I fix the volume by color. So yeah, it's definitely a lot harder to directly, starting from the high end point.
Yeah, I just figure like, color is part of the painting. So if you don't start with it, then it always feels like it's something that just got added later. And there are people out there who like are really good at doing grayscale to color, but I'm not one of them. I can't do it very well. So I like to just go straight in with color, and so it's part of the painting from the start.
Right. So what are you starting? I mean, your major university is from fine art, because it's a really traditional way to paint.
Yeah, it is very traditional. Yeah. I didn't really go to an art school, but I did study figure drawing with a mentor. I had a mentor named Nick Kalislian. Now his work looks nothing like mine. I'll show you his work. I think it's just Nick Kalislian art. This was my very first teacher. He does comic books. Like he did this one comic book. He does a lot of like animation design, like stuff like this. He's a very good designer, but his work doesn't look anything like mine. But he was the one who, back in 2001, I met this guy, and this is some life drawing. He's very good at drawing from life. And this guy taught me about things like gesture and clear shapes. Like if you look at Nick's shapes, they're very good shapes, right? So he taught me about the quality of shape and the gesture of someone. And we used to go life drawing all the time. Like he has a life drawing section here. we used to go life drawing all the time and just do little cafe sketches and sketches from the model. And I learned a lot from him. But then, that was back in 2001. I was his student from like 2001 to 2003 maybe. Okay. And then I discovered painting around then. And then, I moved on and did my own thing. But his lessons are very at the heart of what I do. His lessons about gesture and form and shape. And he's very good at it.
Is he a teacher or illustrator?
He's not a teacher anymore, I don't think. He's an illustrator and designer. He works at different animation studios here in Toronto, actually.
Oh, okay. Probably my coworkers. I
bet you.
My friend's coworker, probably. So.
I'm sure that your friends know him. The animation industry is pretty small in Toronto, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. So I feel like you make me remember my teacher like. From different time, I learned from different people, and they all agreed on the same thing. I realized later on when I go deep and deep, and then oh damn, this guy what they said before probably it's not like very focused on me to really understand what he mentioned at that time. But later on, it feels like okay, yeah, it's true. So sometimes I feels like I regret not listening to him. At the first time he told me this, I want kind of experience different way to paint, and then I go back to choose what they really mentioned to me before. So it's kind of experience, right?
Yeah. I'm just gonna start painting something roughly, Leo.
Right, sure.
Just while we talk, because otherwise I probably won't be able to get to it. And I don't know. I'm definitely not gonna finish anything, but I'll just start painting. You guys can see kind of my approach. I was just to give you guys reference for what I'm doing. Yesterday, a famous boxer died. Tragically, Pernell Whitaker, this guy here, and he was a fantastic boxer. And I just found this great photo of him dodging a punch. So I'm just gonna look at this and I'll just sketch. Okay. So I'll just throw this to the side, and you guys can see. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Rip for him. So.
Yeah. He was a good boxer, man. He was a great defensive. He would avoid punches like crazy, as you can see here.
Yeah.
Look how far away he is from that punch. Look at that. It's crazy.
I remember illustrator or painter, I think it's like a fine artist, always like drawing the kind of boxer. Do you remember what's the name? I forgot. It's like,
is it Steve Houston?
I just can't remember the names, but he did kind of purely boxer illustrations for his whole life, I think.
Oh, yeah. Well, Steve Houston does a lot of boxing, like boxers in his art, and it's fantastic stuff.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, I have no idea how this is going to look, everyone. I apologize. It might be so bad. I don't know.
Are you like just like draw on one layer, or you get into like say this is production work, have to make it easier for feedback changing, so I always keep layers separated.
Yeah, if it's for a client, I will definitely paint on layers.
Right.
But if it's for myself, just one layer, like I'm doing now. My layers window is not even on the screen because I'm not using layers.
Okay.
Yeah, just because for clients, it's the best way. You need layers because you're going to get revisions on everything, right? And you never know. But for your own stuff, just one layer. For me, anyway. Obviously, everyone's got a different opinion on that. Yeah, everyone's different. Like some people need layers, and some people like hate layers. It's everyone's got a different sort of thing. And I've learned over the years as a teacher, I don't enforce any one way on my students. I don't think that's a worthwhile practice. But I let them choose what they like. I show them how I do it. I show them how other people do it, and I let them choose.
I heard from a video say you've been teaching for a decade.
Yeah, I started in Toronto just teaching at. I worked at a college called Centennial College.
Oh, Centennial. Okay.
Yeah, you probably know it. Yeah, I worked there for years. I was a life drawing teacher there, and then before that, I actually worked online at Academy of Art University in California.
Academy
that one? Yeah, Academy of Art University. There is an online school, and I taught character design and background painting there.
Oh, right. Yeah, there's a two main position for animation studios.
Is what?
The two main positions for animation studio, like background painter and character designer. Definitely. You know what? Life drawing class is my favorite class in the college. I feel like it's most useful for me.
Nice. Yeah, me too. I love life drawing. I mean, I really should get back in the classroom now. I haven't been life drawing in a while, but I miss it. I definitely miss it.
Right. I remember when I graduated from Seneca kind of illustration
Okay.
program, and then the most useful one is definitely the life drawing. And my teacher called Todd Swilling. Not pretty sure if you heard about this.
No.
He's a student from another old professor called Werner.
Yeah.
Werner Zimmerman.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, he
German name.
Yeah, he did kinds of so many children illustration books, but he's really go deep for anatomy, that kind of study.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I go deep from the bone, different name of the bone. I can't remember. It feels like it's alien language for me because it's too long for each bone.
Yeah.
So I try to escape this, but yeah, for the bone, and then go the muscle, how the muscle connect to each bone, the area and how the people move by different gestures, and then gonna change the shape of the muscle stuff of this. That feels like it's very helpful for me.
Yeah, the names of anatomy is brutal, huh? Like, who cares about these stupid names? Just as long as you know what the shape of it is and what its function is. I'm so bad at the names.
Yeah, me neither. I feel like that I feel shamed, like they have that kind of exam, like they have to, push us to remember all the names of each bone, and then I just like write a name on the, the bone on the little paper or something, and then pass the exam. I feel like, damn, I can't just finish this job. It's like hell.
Yeah, and then you forget all the bones in like a week.
Yeah, definitely. I know.
As long as you know the shapes of them and like where they fit, where they connect, that's what you need to know.
Right. I'm not a doctor.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. So when you're teaching, do you feel like, cause sometimes I teach with my own classes, I feel like teaching is a lot harder for you paint something you feel like happy for painting. So you have to find kind of easier way. You kind of downgrade this for beginners to understanding what you try to say.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's a lot harder to do that, or you feel like it's your nature of being a teacher?
It's difficult. It's difficult for me. The reason I became a teacher is because like when I first started art, everything was a mystery. Everything. I didn't know anything. Like my drawings were just so bad. I was not a natural artist, but I am naturally interested in learning, so that helps. So when I was learning art, I just remember thinking, like, when I had a breakthrough of something, I'm like, oh, I get it now. And I just remembered what that felt like to me, and I'm like, I think I can tell someone else how I got there, how I went from nothing to learning about color, for instance. And I'm like, maybe I think I might be able to tell someone what it is, like what that thing is. And that's where my teaching comes from. So I try and whenever I do a new lesson, I'm always trying to like go back in time and ask myself, like, when did you figure this out? When did I figure this out? And what are the things that helped me do it? And then I put that into the lesson as best I can. And I go through a lot of revisions in my lessons. I start with the script like just on my Gmail, I just write out lessons on a draft email, and that lasts for a number of weeks before I commit it to a video.
Okay.
Yeah.
It feels like teaching, like all the teachers have to keep like kind of warm heart, so they would like to share, like what you said, your experience, to prevent some other young artists like to have the similar problem you had before.
Yeah. That's the other cool thing. Well, I think it's cool. Everyone has the same problems as a student. Really? Everyone, I think so. Yeah, like everyone's paintings look flat. Everyone's colors don't look like light. People's shapes aren't well designed. People's compositions are boring. Like everyone has the same problems. Like some people are better at certain things or worse at certain things. But like I've never seen anyone who like can design amazing shapes right away. Like everyone needs to learn that.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I've never really seen. I mean, I've seen people who are talented and people who come in with a little bit of something in them that is expressive. But like when it comes to like the fundamentals of painting, Everyone seems to suffer the same issue. So as a teacher, it's actually, in a way, it's kind of predictable. Like when someone comes up to me and says, "Oh, I can't paint flesh tones." In my head, I'm like, "You're probably having trouble with values, not flesh tones." And most of the time, I'm right, because it's usually a value problem.
Yeah, in your videos, you can very precisely pick, one word or two words, like describe what's your mistake of, seeing a painting or something. So yeah, I think your catch up that kind of thing is really correctly out all the time. So you can simplify everything into very short, and then make people, oh damn, this is what I liked before. So
yeah. Oh, thanks, Leo. That's nice of you to say. Thanks.
also I heard like you wrote a book something, and then you mentioned talent, and then you just like mentioned Dan right away.
And I mentioned what? Sorry?
The talent. And
Oh,
then
yeah,
you say
yeah,
yourself
yeah,
is
yeah.
not like a talent, but after tons of drawing something, I use Team as an example.
Yeah.
Right.
Tim. Yeah, yeah. Oh, that guy. Yeah, I don't even know. I haven't talked to him since grade 4. But yeah,
Team who?
I don't
It's
know.
Michael Walker. No.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't even know his last name. But exactly, people do have talent. Some people do have talent, and I just think the problem with talent is it only takes you so far.
Right.
But it feels like you're going, like the people who are talented, it's hard for them to have the motivation to work because they already can do it, right? So they get all this adulation and approval by their peers. But then when it comes to like reaching a professional level, which it requires more of you, the talented people usually have a bit of a harder time stepping up to the plate and putting their real time in. And generally speaking, this is not scientific, and this is just my opinion. But generally speaking, I find most of the people who are the top level professionals are the ones who just put really hard work in, and it's not really a natural talent that came to them one day.
Right. So
Okay.
Go on.
I was just gonna say, maybe you have a different opinion, Leo. I don't know.
Yeah, it feels like talent people, it's just like they can figure out something by themselves.
Yeah.
Sometimes, so they don't have to. For sure, they need practice, but they will very easily to identify what's the mistake I made before, or according to when painting something, so they can know what kind of mistake they made, so they can easily to make improvement.
Yeah.
I think so.
Exactly.
I know some people, especially for say beginners, they really pay attention on what kind of technique I can learn from your class. So, but to me, I'm not pretty sure what the technique is, and like say the fundamental part. I know some like a very professional people like Craig Mullins, so he mentioned a lot of the fundamental. So basically, he did a kind of demonstration like what do they here. So you kind of randomly join thing, but I can readily know, okay, so why you adding color here, and you basically understanding the form of the body and the anatomy thing. So do you feel like, is there any technique in doing some painting, or you feel like a technique is the fundamental?
Yeah, I like the way you said that. The technique is the fundamental. Like when I'm putting down like a brushstroke, like if I'm just putting down brushstrokes on this guy that go this way, I'm showing the viewer some gesture. Like I'm making my brushwork follow the gesture, and this is a way to help me understand the gesture as a painter, and then I can work into that. So these brushstrokes have nothing to do with like the finished look, but the way that you use your brush can help describe the form. Like, Craig Mullins is great because Craig Mullins will move his brush along with the form. Like J.C. Leyendecker did this a lot, where he would move his brush along with the direction of the form, and it was a very expressive way of painting. And that's knowledge of the fundamentals of drawing. It's not a digital painting process. So yeah, I agree. Sometimes students will come into a class looking for like a process to mimic, but if you don't know the fundamentals, you can't do the process because you don't know the forms you're painting. And if you don't know the forms you're painting, that's like you're missing everything, really. So this figure, as rough as this is right now, there's some form coming through, and I paint a lot slower when I'm talking to someone. I'm more of a silent artist. Like I don't even put music on. I put like podcasts on sometimes, but like I like to concentrate when I paint. So when I'm painting in front of an audience, I tend to be slower. But typically, all I'm doing is I'm always thinking of the form. I'm thinking like, his pectoralis muscles are like arcing along his body like this. The pec, there's a muscle here that comes in. The form of the pec goes out and then in, out and then in. I'm thinking about all of that. I'm thinking about the C curve down his body, and then I'll like move my brush strokes in a way that help me describe all that. And then at the end of this process, I'll have a painting. But I'm not following any like specific technique. Like I'll use all kinds of crazy textured brushes and go at a painting in all kinds of different ways.
Okay. Yeah, I think at the very beginning, if you rely too much on brushstroke, make your painting looks like even messier. So you lose that kind of focus on the gesture or the forms, everything. So you just like randomly something on and create some random texture on top, just like make it even harder to move on.
Yeah. When it comes to process, everyone's going to have their own comfort level with certain things. And the process I use today, I couldn't have done this 10 years ago or something like that, because like I didn't have that level of proficiency with the fundamentals. Like I used to be the type of painter that needed a line drawing first, and you do a line drawing, then you do like a tonal study, and then you do a color study. Like I used to need those. And now, over the years I've learned to combine them, and I combine them all into one process. That's taken me a long time to learn.
So you don't really like say the first thing I'm gonna do is this, and then after I follow step by step.
Yeah, I don't have that. I have no idea. Okay. At every painting, I have no idea. Like every painting will demand different things from me based on how it's turning out, and I will just follow my gut. But again, that's something that I work toward every day, and I'm still evolving that. Like right now, I'm using a linear dodge brush with some blue. I want to get some cooler temperatures up top, and then maybe transition them to warmer. So cooler up here and maybe warmer down here. I'm changing the photo. The photo's not like that, but I want to change it. And I'll just glaze in some cool colors up here, and I'll just work with it. So that's something I didn't know I was going to do. I didn't think I was going to do that, but here we are. And then I'll just mix some warms in there too, just have some color variety.
Yeah, notice your color is kind of a little bit, it's not like a very cartoony, but it's very colorful. So do you think if you try to paint something super realistic, like movie shot something, do you feel like it's harder, or just like a different way to control, how to pick the color and how to control the tone?
I think I just think about color temperatures in the work. So warm versus cool. And like you said, my natural color sense is on the cartoony side, but not like I'll push it. Like some things I'll push very cartoony, other things I'll keep a little bit more realistic. I think the realism tends to work more in grays. Like things are pretty neutral, like in the the neutral range in here and grays. Whereas if you want something cartoony, you still need the neutrals, but then you can push out into saturation more. So I like to play with that in the work. So if you look at like this guy's skin tones here, they're all over the map. I've got purples and blues, and you can see my color picker going crazy, right? I really like playing with those types of relationships in my color, and sometimes it'll give me a very cartoony result. But sometimes if I didn't want this to look very cartoony, I could just dial it back and not go as saturated in certain areas, and it will look perfectly realistic as well. So you can direct your colors accordingly. Right.
So the different style of painting is not do too much business with the forms and shapes, so only you can just like twist in the color, so you can push the sliding from realistic and the cartoony, switching different styles.
Exactly, yeah. For me, excuse me, I find that realistic or cartoony is actually more dependent on like the shapes, like how far if you exaggerate a shape or you exaggerate proportions, that will give you a realistic or versus cartoony result. The color, I think you can still paint pretty realistically and still exaggerate color.
Like a surgeon.
Yeah. Like so many painters exaggerate colors and they still paint things that look realistic. Like look at Drew Struzan. Drew Struzan paints, I think people would say, very photorealistic, but if you look at his paintings up close, they're really not. Like his colors are kind of crazy and his brush strokes are interesting and abstract. It's just his shapes are very realistic. Like his shapes adhere to the model, like they represent the model's shapes, whereas a cartoon exaggerates it.
Right.
So it mostly is about shapes and values.
Yeah, I saw you use a lot of references in your video, like say the 10 minutes to better paint. I think the like most welcome video. So I really see students and people love it.
Thanks.
I remember that you put so many the very old time feels like it's not like painting, it's like drawing something, but it's like old time only line work, that kind of sketching thing. So what kind of work you really starting from? Like say who become your most inspiration artist or something?
Well, I think like a lot of painters, I really adore John Singer Sargent. Yeah, I also really love J.C. Leyendecker. I love Norman Rockwell. Those are all.
I remember that one.
Yeah. I mention them a lot in my videos. Modern day painters, I really like. There's a few that I've learned a lot from. Morgan Weisling is one. I can bring up his website. Let's see. Let me just go off my other monitor here.
If you can write a list, like say for certain artists, so say I want to learn color, so I go Sargent. If I want to learn like say line work, I go to Norman. So yeah, if you can recommend students, if you know what you lack of, so you can go certain artists to learn the certain things.
Yeah, well, one guy who's taught me a lot about color is Morgan Weisling. He's an oil painter, and he paints like the American West. He paints barns and stagecoaches and cowboys, which is not my favorite subject matter. But like the way that he uses color, he's always changing his color. This is what I mean. Like his color has a lot of variety, but his end result is very realistic, I think, and that's because the shapes and values are very good, but the color is kind of all over the place. So I learned a lot from Morgan Weisling. Another one is Scott Christensen. If you go to Scott Christensen, I have him on Instagram here. Scott Christensen is a landscape painter. This is his work on Instagram. I took a workshop with Scott back in 2008, and he really, really helped me. Like Scott was the one who taught me to paint small. Like he would show me these little tiny paintings that he would do in his sketchbook, and then like that would make it into a finished studio painting like this, right? These are big oil paintings, but they all start with like these tiny little studies. And I learned, it was Scott who started me off, like, my sketchbooks look like this now. It was Scott who taught me that. I used to paint like really big paintings all the time. And Scott would be like, no, like instead of that, do like 10 small paintings for every one big one, or 50 small paintings for every one big one.
So do you feel that like it's helpful for you to improve certain thing? Like
so Scott is also a master with composition and shapes. So if you're looking for compositions and shapes and light, and especially reflected light, like the amount of like reflected light that he gets, in the rocks here and stuff, is just really nice. So Scott Christensen did that. Then there's Joseph Zbukvich. Let's put Paris, because he does a lot of Paris paintings. This guy really taught me a lot about composition and just the confidence of letting shapes bleed together. You mentioned my 10 Minutes to Better Painting series. Episode 1 is called Merging Shapes. Yeah. And Joseph Zbukvich was the first guy to really hit home on that. Like, look at this. Like, every shape is like merged into one, and like he allows the breakup of shape only to happen down here where the cars are. It's just beautiful stuff. So this, like, look at this. The car just melts into the street, but it still looks or feels realistic. It doesn't really look like a photograph, but it feels like real life. And I love this. I love the simplification that's going on here. So Joseph Zbukvich.
Yeah, sometimes you simplify one area. Actually, you saw that kind of negative shape, and then it's really helpful to pop, positive shape out. And then it's easier. You don't have to push a certain detail to 100%. So you simplify some area to 20%, and then the focal point only needs, say, 70%. It already looks like a very drop-up size. Yeah,
that's exactly it. If you... Yeah, it's like the focal point doesn't need 100% detail. Right. It just needs to be more than something else. Like I showed you in that Disney painting earlier, where the background was completely abstract. Right. By comparison, the foreground was very finished, right? So it's like a little trick. You don't actually need to bring something to 100%. Sometimes you do, but sometimes you don't. And watercolor is another. It was Joseph Zbukvich's work who inspired me to get going with watercolor. And watercolor is a fantastic medium to paint outdoors with, I think, because it really forces you to simplify things. You get things bleeding, like you can see the water running down the page. Just, I love that.
I remember watching his YouTube. He has a demo something, like shows us the working process. I remember, but I can just like remember the name, as I said before.
Yeah, I know that some students of his have like posted his workshops. I don't think they're supposed to post them, but some of his students have posted them, and I've watched them too.
Yeah, the watercolor artists, they really take advantage of water so they can merge in shapes very easily. Yeah, and I barely saw oil painter do that way. So yeah, watercolor gives you that luxury, whereas with oil painting, you have to work for it. And with digital, you really got to work for it because digital brushes, but they don't really merge. You have to really consciously like go in there and start losing shapes. And it's actually harder to do that with digital. So digital painting has a lot of advantages, but sometimes it actually has disadvantages too. You got a Control Z happening.
yeah, Control Z, sure. I use the front button on my pen. That's my undo right there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I can work without undo. I feels like my mind is changing every second, so I have to, updating.
Yeah, I undo a lot. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
You can't do that in watercolor though.
Oh yeah, no way.
Yeah.
No way. I feel like the developer of all the painting tools I learned from the fine artists, because like say the Photoshop, the layer, that kind of system. Remember me, the very old time oil painting, cause you do layer and layer and layer. So it's working a similar process, I think. Yeah,
you're right. That's like the very old school oil painting technique, which I never learned that technique. I learned like the Sargent, the alla prima method, where you just paint wet into wet with thick strokes, which is why I like the smudge tools. Like this is like oil paint, right?
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes you use a smudge tool and then it feels like you blurish everything, on the background, and then you just like put normal brushstroke on top in the foreground. So it's really increase that kind of contrast in between. That's kind of
totally. I love using the blur tools in Photoshop. Like sometimes I'll make a selection, like I don't know, something like this. I'll feather it, feather by 22 pixels. Then I'll just go like filter blur, lens blur, and I'll just blur this out a little bit. I'll just say okay there, and then the act of painting over that makes it look interesting. Like you get that hard and soft feel, and I really like that. Yeah, the edges change, and I really like doing that too. Right. It's kind of like, with watercolor there's no blur in watercolor, but there's like washes and wet into wet washes. Exactly. Yeah.
So when you're teaching, do you feel like, say, when I'm teaching, like when I figure out something in my work, like on workplace and in my work in progress, I feel like, okay, damn, this is a new technique for me, or my new idea come to my workflow, so I really want to share. So I feel like I put 80% of my lifetime into consider to be a teacher. So I do have the similar feeling, like all the time you figure out something new you want to put in your curriculum.
Yeah, whenever I keep like a little notebook, which I don't know if I have any notebooks on my desk right now, no, but I keep a little notebook in my pocket, and whenever I have like a thought about something to do with painting, I'll just write it down, and then I'll revisit it later, like when I'm before bed or something. I'll just revisit it and say like, what was that thought, and like let's dig into that a little bit. And a lot of lessons have come from those ideas, like those little notebook ideas, and you just think about like the whole that whole Star Wars analogy in my color theory video, episode 5 of 10 Minutes to Better Painting. I used Star Wars. That started as like, I had these like, it didn't start as a Star Wars. It started as like, I was thinking about magnets and like, it's hard to explain, but I was thinking about the system of magnets and like the colors being drawn or repelled. And it started.
You put aircraft for the color wheel thing. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, this is good, but there's something it's missing. And then like Star Wars was coming out. I'm like, oh, maybe the magnets are like part of a ship. And like, I just think about, I just
Right.
explore these lessons, and I think you mentioned this earlier, Leo, but like as you're working on something, you explore the idea. So when I'm making like my YouTube videos and I'm doing my classes, the way that I teach it happens like as I'm making the video. I'm like, oh, maybe this would be good, and I'll like put it in the video. And a lot of ideas happen on the fly. So it starts in the notebook, but then it gets finished in production.
Right. Are you when you're teaching? I remember sometimes like when I'm teaching something like say fundamental, so people
Yeah.
don't really like it because it feels like damn, you have to teach something like sounds like advanced to me, but you just like bring some fundamental thing to me. But to me, fundamental thing it's the key stuff for me to work say at workplace or personal work. I feel that is the most important thing for me. But for some beginners, they just they are really starving for like hunger for some big knowledge. Are you willing, say, you would like to teach some fundamental, but you transfer personally from fundamental into something, high level stuff knowledge to teach? Like, say, really be a teacher. You know what I mean?
I'm not
It's,
quite sure I understand the question.
yeah, if you say, when I teach some
Yeah.
forms, like so simple, you
Okay.
have to go deep to learn anatomy thing, but that probably make my students sounds like very boring to learn anatomy.
Okay. Okay.
Are you finding like willing to find some very interesting way to
Ah.
teach something like this and make some fundamental thing sounds like so big knowledge,
Yeah, yeah. So one thing I do in my classes is like I'll do a painting, like I'm doing here, although I'll focus on the painting more. But I'll do a painting,
right?
and I'll try and like it's like I put a microphone in my brain, and I'll just tell my students I'll try the best as I can. I'll say I'm choosing this brush now because it has a little bit of texture, and I think that texture will look good, over top of this smooth thing. And now I'm switching to this brush. It's very annoying if you just listen to me talk, but I try and like tell the student as best I can everything I'm thinking, because most of the time when I'm painting, I'm not really like I'm thinking, but like with experience, things go to the back of your head, right? And you can just paint.
Right,
It's
right.
like when you're tying your shoelace, you just tie your shoelace, you do it. When you're painting, a lot of that stuff happens subconsciously. But in my classes, I try and tell my students, okay, I'm thinking about like, right over here. I know that when I want this arm to feel like it's moving down very quickly, like he's just moved it down. So I want these very vertical strokes. But
Right, right.
I also know that there's a bicep here. But the bicep is less important than the gesture. I need the gesture first. Then I'll think about the deltoid and like look at this beautiful deltoid shape. It's the letter D for deltoid. I will try and find that next, and then I'll try and find the connection with the bicep. But first, the gesture is what's needed. So like I'll do that kind of thing with my students, where like I'll just talk to them as if there
Right.
was a microphone in my brain. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I think it's really helpful.
yeah, yeah. Same.
Okay. So I think, sometimes like when you're thinking and painting, you probably meet some, key knowledge. So when you just like literally, focus on, okay, I have to say that, or I have to, very clearly focus on each step. Do you feel like they're helpful for improvement? To me, I think yes.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I try and break down different steps. Like in my classes, I try and break down like the form versus the gesture versus the light and shadow. Well, light and shadow is form, but I always
Right.
it's like there's form. You can understand form in terms of planes. Like this plane goes that way, this plane goes that way. You can understand form there, and then you have to know how light hits that form. So there's like form is like two different things: the actual construction of it, but then also how light interacts with it. So I try and separate as much as I can these lessons for students,
Okay.
and then you combine them later. It takes that's what takes a long time in art, is combining fundamentals. Like it's like a lot of people are good at like drawing realistic portraits or drawing form or like I don't know, rendering something, but not a lot of people are good at like combining composition and gesture and form and light and color all at once. That's what takes a long time, is the combination.
Yeah, I remember when teachers say, actually, there's no 1, 2, 3, 4 step to follow, so they
Yeah.
combine everything together. So it's working all the time. The same time.
I agree. I totally agree. Past a certain like level of experience, you don't have like a 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, it becomes a free for all. Every painting might be a little bit different. And as a teacher, though, you got to make sure that you don't show that to your students right away, because like it's not fair, right? Like you can't just watch Michael Jordan. Not that I'm not trying to compare myself to Michael Jordan, but you don't want to just watch Michael Jordan play basketball and say, okay, now you go do that. Like, it doesn't work that way, right?
Right.
Okay, here's how to shoot the ball, here's how to dribble the ball, and then yeah.
Right. So you really want to break down this stuff and into step. Feels like you go 5 years ago. Like imagine that how you grew up from that. And then I know.
Yeah. So then that way I can tell my students like, oh look, I'm painting a halftone right now. I'm just using these crazy brushes because I want to use crazy brushes, but like the fundamental thing I'm doing is I'm painting a halftone, or I'm painting a highlight, or whatever it is. And so I try and teach that way. So then when I do my crazy paintings, like I'm doing now, for instance, I can tell my students like, fundamentally, like, do you remember when I talked about form? Well, here's a halftone, here's a shadow, here's a light, whatever. Yeah.
Right. You mentioned you work for some concept art as well. So yeah, it's kind of very common question for all the artists. Like, what do you feel like, the difference between concept art and illustration, or which one do you prefer to work and why?
Yeah, I think that, I've thought about that. I don't really know if I know what the difference is. If according to me, the only difference is that a concept art piece is finished sooner. You have less time. So you have to arrive at a finish faster, because you are being hired to conceptualize, like concept, right? You're being hired to conceptualize an idea, and you're doing it for an end result later. So your work needs to be a little crystal ball into the future for later, for the production team. So you have to work quickly and arrive at a finish fast, because you need to explore many ideas, I think. Whereas an illustration, the illustration is the finished product. So you have time to care for it a little more and refine it. But the thing that makes them very similar, like an illustration still has to be a concept. Like it still has to have a conceptual design. It just also needs to have like, every little thing needs to be dialed in correctly for an illustration to be finished. Whereas a concept piece, you can submit a little quick sketch and it can be a finished piece of concept art. That's fine. So I find concept arts, it's a little quicker, a little less, I don't want to say refined, it's just maybe a little less finished somehow. I don't know. I don't really know the words to say.
So it feels like as long as you can convey your idea in your piece, you can call this like, say, concept art. Right?
Yep. If it conveys the idea, you got concept art. Yep. Okay. And it can be a sketch, totally, exactly. Yep. So I've done pieces for studios where it's like they just want very fast sketches. I've also done concept art for studios where like they want it to be more finished. So I don't know. Like I don't really know what concept art is. It seems to change from studio to studio.
Yeah, I think right now some new tools are emerging, and like say 3D render piece, it looks like super realistic. So you don't have to, go in and line work and then tones and the color. So you save time on very traditional workflow and then transfer something computer can do it for you and faster.
Exactly. Right. Like if you see that Jama Jurabev's guy, you know that I'm talking about? Yeah, like he's got those Gumroad videos. I got one of his Gumroad videos because I'm like, I see his concept work. I'm like, how the heck does he do that quickly? And I'm like, oh, he's got model packs. I mean, he's an amazing artist. He's an amazing artist. But like, I kind of was disappointed. I'm like, oh, you're plugging in models and then you just use like some brushes on top to like blend it together. He's very good. Yeah. He's amazing. But I thought it was all painted. And I was kind of like, oh, all right, well, okay.
Everybody got cheated.
Yeah.
I'm assuming like you saw the one. It's like a team of soldiers or something, and walking through the snow mountain.
Yeah, that's the one I got. Yeah, that's the one I got. Right. I was so looking forward. I'm like, oh, I get to watch this guy paint soldiers. And like the first shot is like, oh, I have this 3D program and I put all these soldiers here. I'm like, damn it. Does nobody paint anymore?
It feels like you've been cheated.
Yeah. But hey, for anyone watching, he's an amazing artist, and it's not easy to do what he does. I just like to see people paint things. That's all. Which is why I'm an illustrator, right? Which is why I'm an illustrator. More than concept art. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it feels like I watched several of his videos, and I realized at this moment, especially for movie concept and some AAA concept, we have certain very limited time to finish one
Yeah,
piece.
that's exactly it. Yeah.
And right, and like what Jama do is he creates certain, like say, different props by his own, and then say you can use this prop for the whole project, but you
Yeah.
like changing different angles, changing different mood and lighting.
Yeah.
It save a lot of time on re-render 10 different character stuff.
It's very intelligent. It's a very smart approach. Absolutely. And I use like when I do concept art, like I said, I use Blender. I do 3D too. I do the thing that I don't like, which is relying on the 3D to get me 50% of the way. But
Right.
it's the nature of the beast. It's the nature of working under deadlines which are getting tighter and tighter all the time. Everyone's got very strict deadlines, and that's what you got to do. That's what you got to do. But at the end of the day, the reason I'm an artist is because I love to paint, right? So I look
Right.
for opportunities and work that give me the opportunity to do that. So
Right.
if Naughty Dog Studio called me and said, "Would you like to work for us?" I'd be like, probably not, because I don't really like to do that kind of stuff. Anyway.
Yeah, Naughty Dog use a lot of photo bash. Do you
Yeah.
really use bashing photos, like one technique, something for production work? I mean, it's not personal.
Sometimes, like if I'm on my other monitor right now, like sometimes, okay, I'll just take this. Like sometimes I'll take a photo, or let's use this one. I'll take a photo. I'll be like, I need a texture, so I'll just paste this in, do this, and I'll just set it to like multiply mode or something, and it just gives me a bit of a texture, and I'll just scale it up, and I'll just use. This is probably not the best application of it, but I'll just use this a little bit for texture, and photographs can be good that way. Like this, looks kind of interesting. There's something cool here.
Right. Say you use like basically photo bash, or I mean, grabbing some photos only for texture. It's not like
Yeah.
just using the details exactly. Say I want this bridge, so I find a bridge in the photo and then bash it.
Yeah, I try not to do that. But if I need, like, if I'm doing a brick wall, sometimes I'll get a brick wall texture if it's for a piece of concept art or something.
Right.
Yeah. Or what I did here, I pasted a picture on there and just merged it in with a multiply layer and decreased the opacity, and it just gives me a bit of freshness in the piece that I'll work with. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it feels like a long time if I kind of more relies on the photo bash, like campaign. I just want to go back to traditional lifetime, and then go learn from the watercolor artists and all your painting, and then grab the genius people that kind of sell to me again, so I can feel like damn, I can grab me back to the real life, and then it's
exactly. So photo bashing has its place, but yeah, it's almost like a brush. Like I use different brushes for different textures. Like I've got all these crazy brushes that make these different marks, and photo bashing or pasting a photo in is kind of like that. It gives you different textures and stuff, which I like. You do the same with watercolor by like spattering the brush on the canvas.
right.
Yeah.
So being a freelancer, do you feel like any affecting your real life? Because sometimes when you off from work, like me, it's like after work I just feels like I'm totally off from the work. But freelance, you feels like probably some of my friends feels like all the time after work, because I'm freelance, not pretty sure when and where I got a job, and to work overtime or something.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it started like that, but what has been helping me now is like, because I do my YouTube thing and I have like my education stuff, that's been more consistent, like pretty reliable. So that's been good. So I don't actually have to worry about jobs coming in as much, because I have my YouTube channel, which funnels people to my Skillshare and my my store. I also have like mentorship programs. So like things kind of are all connected that way. Right. So it's kind of nice. I've kind of built a little infrastructure for myself where things are connected. But yeah, no, I definitely had the times in life as a freelancer where I'm like, oh, I really haven't had a good job in a few months, and this is getting weird. But I've been there. It's not the most fun thing in the world. I would suggest that it's a good thing to have a good network first. Like I didn't go freelance until I had been working at studios for many years. So I had some contacts. So I could reach out and say, hey, do you need some work done? And I had people I could contact, right? I couldn't imagine starting freelancing without that in place.
Right. So you recommend some people, when they get their connection really well build it up so they can, choose their own way to work, like to be a freelancer rather than I just want freelancing. I don't just want work in the house. So I just like starting from freelancing, probably getting harder.
Yeah, I would recommend people to work in a studio first and gain experience working with other artists and like gain a network of artists that you know. It really helps if you're going to go freelance to know people.
Okay. Right. So we're about an hour or something. I probably have. Okay. So one last question. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Sure. Sure.
Okay. So being a teacher, so you feels like right now you feels like you have enough stuff or enough sufficient knowledge to share to students. Do you feel like the teacher have to keep their own update every day, like say work for progress for a project in a company, so they can learn the meanwhile, so they can teach and they can offer the better class? So like right now, currently some teacher like my teacher in the creative gear, so they all working, so they are full-time teacher and no full-time worker, sorry, and then on the side, so they learn something from the company and then they can offer better class. But some teacher I noticed they just like you, like really full-time on teaching. Do you feel like you at this moment probably fine, maybe in the next decade, so you feel like I'm out, so do you have that kind of feeling, it's not didn't stand up with the world outside?
I definitely think that people want to learn from teachers who are experienced in the industry.
Okay.
And that is why I will never go full-time teaching. I always want to have my other foot in the modern industry, right? So whether it's working, so like like just last month I was doing concept art. I have an NDA, I can't say, but I was doing concept art for a studio last month. And like it's just nice to know that I'm still connected to the mainstream studio system, and I'm using the latest software, and I'm basically still competing with the modern artists out there, because that will inform the teaching. I think you're right. You're onto something, Leo. If I just completely quit being a freelancer, it might be fine right now, but like 5 years from now, I would have no idea what's going on. Like the only reason I started using Blender is because I saw other artists using it, right? And I'm like, oh, maybe I should learn this. And like it turns out it's great. But if I had quit freelance, I probably would never have learned Blender, right? And my lessons would be out of date. So I do make sure that I'm still keeping myself in the loop. Yeah, I think that is very important, especially because students want to learn from you because that you have the experience that they are seeking.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice painting,
so,
almost down. Damn, is you call this like a finished sketch?
No, not yet. This is not. This is still a sketch. Not finished yet.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's coming along. I'm not going to work on it though. After we're done, I'm gonna close this file and not save it.
All right. Yeah, just like daily practice,
this is just little practice. Yeah, this is not going on Instagram. I'm not going to show anyone. Well, I'm going to show you, and you're going to show your students, but I'm not going to show anyone this. This is just little fun sketch. But thanks for.
How long do you really finish? Like you call like a finish sketches? Because I'm not pretty sure you play the normal speed on your video.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
3 hours.
Okay, on each one.
Yeah. Like I would paint. Let's see, something like. I'm looking at my other screen right now. Like a painting like this. This guy here, this piano player. That's probably like 5 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, and like. You can see like when I zoom in, I don't know if you can see it, but like there's things are more in place here. Like there is it's sketchy, but there is a certain design to it that is not quite here yet. This is still too unresolved. Whereas with this one, things have more of a, I don't know. In my opinion, there's something about it that makes it look finished. Like I feel like I've dialed in certain things that makes it look finished. This one is about 5 hours long. Okay. I could make this finished. I would just need another few hours. That's all.
Right. Okay. So this is why people choose to use a Blender. You drag in the character models like a boom, one button and stuff.
Done. Hey, good luck doing this in Blender.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Marco. It's super great experience talk with you here. So yeah, hopefully in the future, so we can work together, or we'll come to Ubisoft to check with us.
Yeah, man, it'd be cool to meet you there at Ubisoft. I'll let you know if I'm in the area.
Definitely.
I'll let you know if I'm in the area. We can hang out for lunch, and maybe you can let me in and check out your workspace.
Okay, yeah, for sure. If you sign the DA something,
Yeah.
NDA something, you can definitely.
I'll sign. No problem. I'll sign the NDA.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Leo.
Cool, man. Okay,
Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening.
Right.